Can't say this would be an easy movie to watch a second time. I'm John Hayeck, and welcome to my movie thoughts. Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. If the title of this movie sounds familiar, it's probably because it's been getting a ton of awards buzz so far this year. It premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival or something like that. It's played at a bunch of other festivals, and so far everybody's saying it's going to sweep the SAG Awards, the PGA, the DGA, the Oscars. All the awards are going to be covered with Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And I heard that and I was very excited. This movie won the People's Choice Award at the Toronto International Film Festival, and movies that have won that same award in past years have won, I think, some of my favorite movies of the years they came out. 2015's Room with Brie Larson won the same award. Loved that movie. 2012 Silver Linings Playbook is my favorite movie of all time. So Three Billboards has piqued my interest, and I'm sure it's piquing a lot of your interest too if you follow the Oscars at all. And I will tell you guys, all the hype that has been surrounding this movie is absolutely merited, because Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is a special, unique film unlike any other I think I've ever seen in my life. Now, the premise of Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is as follows. Frances McDormand plays a grieving mother who lost her daughter 7 months prior to the start of this film. Her daughter was killed, raped, and completely brutally savaged, but the police department in Ebbing, Missouri, the town in which they live, hasn't really done anything about it. They matched some DNA, but nothing, no results really came up, and then they abandoned the case pretty much. So Frances McDormand rents 3 billboards right outside town and basically says, like, hey, you need to do something, police officers of Ebbing, Missouri. Like, get on it. And then a lot of controversy starts surrounding those billboards. Is Frances McDormand handling the situation the right way? Is she justified? Why is she calling out the police department? And the entire movie is basically not necessarily about the police starting an investigation, like, ooh, who's gonna wind up being the killer of the daughter and everything like that. It's a movie about anguish and how people deal with the world around them and what the responses they want to portray are realistically. It's a movie that shows that people can really turn into what they want to be when they are pushed to their limits. Frances McDormand gives a killer performance in this movie, no pun intended, sadly, but she is absolutely off the walls incredible. You see the pain in her eyes. They do a flashback at one point in the movie, which isn't a spoiler, but they do a flashback. You see, she's like, oh, she's kind of like wisecracking, and she's like, you know, having fun with her kids and everything like that. But then when you see the present, she's completely beaten down, obviously, because her daughter is dead, and she was killed in such a terrible way that, like, yeah, you're going to be completely grief-stricken. You're not going to be able to move on with your life, really. It's such a haunting thing to happen to you, and Frances McDormand portrays that with aces. Fantastic job done by her. In fact, all the actors in the movie are really good. Woody Harrelson is the chief of police in the town, who's kind of being called out the most by Frances McDormand. His character has cancer in the movie, so he's going through a lot as well, and you really feel his side of it, because he's doing his best, but she's calling him out, and you feel like there's this conflict of interests, and you just don't know who to root for, because both of them have equally compelling sides. Sam Rockwell's great in the movie as well. He's kind of this cop that isn't necessarily great at his job, might have a little bit kind of under the surface that isn't all right with him and everything. So you root for his character as well, even though he has some questionable tactics, and even at some points in the movie you're like, I don't know if I would do that, but I understand what you're doing. And again, throughout the entire run of the movie, you really just feel like these people are doing things that you wouldn't do in real life, but are things that they needed to do to get the results that they wanted, and to do things that in these times of such anguish and such grief are really just what you wish you could do if you were in the same situation, or things that you feel like you would also do. The movie is just brilliantly written. You feel like the entire way through the plot moves at such a slow pace that feels like it's just draining the life out of you, and you feel like you're just completely as grief-stricken as some of these characters are, while also at the same time you feel like you're understanding how the characters are reacting to situations in such a quick and timely manner. Slow and fast are both elements of this movie, but they both work in their individual scenes or over the course of the entire movie super well. I felt like the dialogue was sharp the entire way. There was one scene in particular where Frances McDormand was in the police station talking to Woody Harrelson, and I'm like, this might be the best written scene I've seen in film all year. I loved it, the entire thing. The writing throughout the entire movie was really great as well. Again, all the characters are super well developed. All the characters have a little bit more to them than just being generic police officer, generic grieving mother, generic son, generic this or generic that. They all felt like they were real people that you were just watching on screen, to the point where you forget you're even sitting in the theater. You just feel like you're living life alongside these people. The only problem I have with the movie is that sometimes, even though the movie feels real, and even though it's supposed to kind of highlight some absurdities of things that you wouldn't necessarily do in real life, sometimes there are scenes that go like a little bit too over the top, and sometimes they push it just a little bit too far to the edge. And I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily like something realistic. It might push the boundaries on realistic a little bit. And also, I do think that at some points the movie can get a little bit too depressing. And I mean, the point of this movie is obviously supposed to be get the grief and get the anguish feeling from you, make you feel sad with the movie. But at some points, I'm just like, man, I don't know if I can watch this again. It's really depressing. Like, it's a lot to handle. You have to be in a certain mood to watch the movie. And my only other small flaw in the movie is the ending. I think the movie could have ended either a little bit earlier or a little bit later. They do end at a point where I'm like, huh. I understand why you could have ended it before this, and I understand that you could have ended it after this, tacked on a scene or two, but I don't know why they chose to end it there, per se. That being said, though, guys, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is a phenomenal film. I loved it. You're going to hear a lot about it at the awards this coming year. I don't know if it'll crack my top 10 of the year, but it absolutely will be on a ton of top 10 lists because of the acting being so great, because of the pacing being so awesome, somehow drawing out a slow burn of a movie while intertwining quick scenes in there as well, having really sharp dialogue, a really fascinating story that's so different from a lot of other stuff that you've seen, focusing on the human drama rather than just a pure investigation. I really love Three Billboards and everything it had to promote. I'm going to give Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri an A-. Be sure to let me know all of your guys' thoughts when you get a chance to see Three Billboards. You guys can go over to mymoviethoughts.com, follow me on Twitter at John M. Hayeck, and go subscribe to this YouTube channel for tons more posts from me. Links to all three of those in the description down below. As always, be sure to like this video, comment on it, share it with some friends. I'm John Hayeck, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching.